Good morning, children. Now we are going to study the first lesson titled as The Last Lesson. The writer is Alphonse Daudet, who is a French novelist and short story writer. Alphonse Daudet was a French novelist and short story writer. He was previously a teacher, but then he became a journalist. This story is set during Franco-Persian War, which started in the year 1870. In this war, Persia attacked France under the leadership of Bismarck. France was defeated. Two of its provinces, Alsace and Lorraine, were occupied by the Persians. Good morning, children. Today we are going to do detailed study of this lesson. The last lesson is the title. Alphonse Daudet is the writer of this lesson. Alphonse Daudet was a French novelist and short story writer of 19th century. He was born in the year 1840. He died in the year 1897. This chapter is set in the days of the Franco-Persian War. Franco-Persian War was fought between France and Persia. Persia consisted of Germany, Poland, and parts of Austria. The war started in the year 1870 and ended with the treaty in the year 1871. In this war, France was defeated. Persia fought the war under the leadership of Bismarck. In this story, we are going to see how French-speaking people suffer due to imposition of French. The French districts of Alsace and Lorraine have been passed into Persian hands. Persians have occupied these two districts, Alsace and Lorraine, and later they imposed German language on French-speaking people. French speakers had to now speak German, and all French teachers were asked to leave these two districts, and they were supposed to be replaced by German teachers. The narrator says, "I started for school very late that morning and was in great dread of a scolding, especially because young Hamel had said that he would question us on participles and I did not know the first word about them." Here, the narrator is a young boy. He is very late for school on that particular morning, and therefore he was afraid. Secondly, he was afraid that the teacher had told them to prepare on participles. There was going to be a test on participles, and he didn't know anything. He was in great dread of a scolding. He had a great fear that he would get scolding from his teacher. Who is the teacher? Young Hamel. And what is the name of the narrator? France. France is a school goer. He is very much afraid to go to school. First of all, he is late. Secondly, he didn't prepare on participles. For a moment, I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. A thought came in his mind that why not spend the day out of doors? Why not bunk the classes? He wanted to run away because he was afraid that he might be scolded by his teacher. And this young boy, now he wants to spend his day out of doors. He found the day was quite warm and bright. It was so warm, so bright. It was a sunny day. Rather than going to the class, sitting there inside the class and listening to the teacher, he felt it was really enjoyable to remain outdoors. And then he wanted to enjoy the beauty of the nature. He wanted to be there in the lap of the nature. And what does he find? The birds were chirping at the edge of the woods. Then he hears the birds chirping there near the jungle. And there in the open field, back of the sawmill, the Persian soldiers were drilling. So there was a sawmill where the wood is cut. And there, just behind that sawmill, there was open field. The Persians had won the war. Persian soldiers were there in Alsace and they were parading, they were drilling. And this was quite attractive. It was all much more tempting than the rule for participles. Participles, the teacher was teaching grammar. You are familiar with present participles. You are familiar with past participles. Go, going is a present participle form. Gone is a past participle form. So rather than learning grammar of French language, he thought that if he spends a day outside, that will be fine. First of all, he was late. Secondly, he was afraid that he might get scolding. But I had the strength to resist. The thought had come in his mind to bunk the class, but he had the strength to resist that thought, to get rid of that thought, and then hurried off to school. Then he started moving fast to go to school. Who is the narrator? He is a younger boy. Why is he afraid? He is afraid because he might get scolding from his teacher. Who is teacher? Young Hamel. Now let's go to the second paragraph. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. On the way he came across town hall. And in front of the town hall, there was a huge crowd. So what was there? Why that crowd was there? There was a bulletin board. And bulletin board definitely would give some news, and as a result of that, there was a huge crowd. People who were interested to know what has happened, to know about the news. They were all waiting there. They were all reading there. And bulletin board means notice board. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. The war had started in the year 1870. And the war ended in the year 1871. During those 2 years, what they heard was only bad news. The French had lost their battle, the lost battles. The draft, and then after that, the draft that was prepared, the agreement that was made, the orders of the commanding officer, the orders they were getting from the German commanding officer. Now, Persians had occupied those two districts. And I thought to myself, without stopping, what can be the matter now? Suddenly felt, what must be the matter now? What is the news now? What is the latest now? Then, as I hurried by for as fast as I could go, the blacksmith watched her who was there with his apprentice. We know that the two main characters in this story are Franz and Hamel. Franz is a student, Hamel is a teacher. Now we are introduced to the third character, that is Washter. Washter is a minor character. Now here at the bulletin board near the town hall, the narrator comes across Washter. Then now he thinks of hurrying off to school and he starts moving very fast. As I hurried by as fast as I could go, at that time Washter tells him, and Washter was with his apprentice. Who is apprentice? Apprentice is a trainee. So he may be a trainee in a factory. Now he is there who is learning the skills of blacksmith with Washter. And he was reading the bulletin and he told him, he called after me. He told him, don't go so fast, Bob. Oh, young boy, no need to go fast. You'll get to your school in plenty of time. There'll be plenty of time. You need not hurry off to school. You need not go fast to school. It was an unusual day. The narrator was not aware. Franz was not aware. He felt that it was a usual day. And Washter had read what was there in the bulletin board. He knew the latest news. And therefore he tells, there's no need for you to go fast. He's addressing this young boy, Franz. I thought he was making fun of me and reached young Hamel's little garden all out of breath. He thought that he was ridiculing him. Since he was trying to hurry off, since he was late to the school, he thought that he was making fun of him. And he started moving very fast. And by the time he reached young Hamel's garden, he was out of breath. He started panting. That means he must have been running to come to school. First of all, he wanted to remain outside. He wanted to bunk the classes. But there was a fear in him. He was in great dread of scolding by his teacher. The teacher had asked him to prepare on participles. He was not prepared. He didn't know anything about participles. Secondly, he was late. So therefore, he ran very fast. Now he has reached the school. But when he reaches the school, the atmosphere that he sees in the school was totally unusual. Usually, when the school begins, how will be the atmosphere? Lot of noise. Children will be hurrying off. They will be opening up their desks. They'll be keeping their bags, opening up books, and you hear a lot of noise there because a lot of activities will be gone. But once the classes begin, then we'll find that everything is quiet. And he was counting on that. He was depending upon that. Now let's see here. Usually when school began, there was a great bustle which could be heard out in the street. The opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in unison, very loud, with our hands over our ears to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. Remember, it's a primary class. It's a primary school. And now, the usual scene in the school, how it would be? A great bustle, lot of noise, which could be heard out. And if you are there in the street, if you are there on the road, you can hear that noise. What all happens in the school? The children open their desks, they close their desk, they open their books, they keep their bags, they repeat their lessons all together at once, in unison, all together, all at once, in a group. And they repeat those lessons very loud, particularly in primary school. Children, they repeat together. They learn alphabet together. With our hands over our ears. So in order to understand better, they keep their hands over the ears. And there the teacher's ruler, it will be striking on the table. If the children make a lot of noise, then the teacher scolds them. He keeps on rapping on the table. He keeps on striking that ruler on the table. But today was very unusual day. It was not usual day. Everything was still. Everything was motionless. But now it was also still. Everything was quiet. And remember, he thought that there will be a lot of noise and he can sneak into the class. He can come into the class without notice of the teacher. I had counted on the commotion. I depended on the commotion. I had relied on the commotion. Commotion, noise and confusion. And by that commotion, he can very easily go and sit on the desk. To get to my desk without being seen. The teacher will be engrossed in teaching. The teacher will be busy in teaching. And during that time, he can sneak into the class. He can go and sit there on his desk. But of course that day, everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. Sunday is holiday. It's all quiet on that particular day. And now he started feeling that it was as quiet as Sunday morning. Through the window, I saw my classmates. And he just peeps into the classroom. And what does he find? All his classmates are there. Already they have taken their places. Already in their places. Young Hamel, his teacher. Who is the teacher? Young Hamel. Which subject he is teaching? He is teaching French language. He is walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. Young Hamel is a very strict teacher. All students are afraid of him. And he is walking up and down. Now here he says it's a terrible iron ruler because he uses that ruler sometimes to beat children too. So that's a terrible iron ruler under his arm. So he has kept that ruler under his arm and walking up and down there in the classroom. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. And he had to open the door. And he had to face everybody. Because he had to enter there facing everyone. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. So he was feeling very much embarrassed, blushed, and he was feeling very much frightened because he had to face all the students. Secondly, he had to face very strict teacher, young Hamill. Very dedicated and sincere teacher, young Hamill. That day, it was all quite unusual day, but nothing happened. The teacher did not scold him. The teacher did not say anything to him. But nothing happened as he thought that would happen. Nothing of that sort happened. But something else happened. Young Hamill saw me. Who is young Hamill? His French teacher. He saw him and said very kindly. On this day he was very kind. The narrator is not aware what has happened on that particular day. He is not aware that this is going to be the last class. The teacher kindly says, "Go to your place quickly, little Franz. We are beginning without you." He's a very kind. And he says, "Go to your place quickly." Probably never expected from this teacher. And it was a big shock for him. And the teacher says, "Go to your place quickly. Without you." Every student is very important for this teacher. We were beginning without you. You would have missed out. The teacher, who is a dedicated teacher, he loves his language very much. It's French language. He knows that this is the last day there, and he says the student would have missed his class. We are beginning without you. Immediately the student is very happy because the teacher has not scolded him. I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Immediately he has gone to his bench, sat down there at his desk. Not till then. And it took some time for him to get rid of that fright, to get rid of that fear. When I had got a little over my fright, when he overcame his fear, he noticed the teacher what he was wearing. He was wearing beautiful green coat. He was wearing totally different kind of attire today.